In this final segment of our trip to the Badlands from the Twin Cities, I did forget to mention in the last section that we had to stay one night when we were in the Badlands at Horse Thief Campground. It's a campground that I highly recommend. Very spacious, lovely people, very nice general store, laundry facility, full hookup, meaning dumping, water replacement, replenishment, and your electric. And it was very, very nice place. So I would highly recommend that as well when you're looking for a campground to stay either tent or RV. On the way home, we did stop at the Badlands. We had initially intended to stop on the way out, but we didn't have enough time. So we put that at the end of the trip. This is something that we were able to find about a 1 hour sweep through drive. It takes you from the high part of the canyon to the low, very gently and gradually, you hardly even know you're getting down in there, and then back up again and out. I would literally take an entire day for this. It's amazing. You're driving along the kind of doldrum, brown, flattish, moderately, hardly rolling, very little trees, kind of a difficult stretch of trip to enjoy. And you come upon the Badlands, named by the Sioux Indians many years ago because there's no potable water, no horse travel, no place to plant, nothing they could do with the land, which of course that meant everything to the Indians, so they called it the Badlands, and they actually just stayed away from it. And also there were bandits, there would be bandits in there, and if you did get down in there you could be robbed and killed. So not anymore, but that's how they got their name. And they're really actually spectacular. You come over the hill and see them, and it's like a whole world that's just like a different planet almost, in contrast to what you've been driving in to get to that point. Either way, depending on if you're coming from the cities or from Rapid City. Let's see here. Many scenic outlook spots, very nice. If we were to do it again, we would stop at each and every one. Even though the Badlands is in general similar in color, the shapes are very different. Sometimes it's more rounded, sometimes it's more peakish, sometimes it even looks like little mountains. The sediment layers are fascinating and give it a beautiful color, and there are also fossils in there that you can see in the walls of the hills, mountains. You're just not allowed to take them or touch them. They do have great hiking facilities and boardwalks available, none of which we took advantage of. Again, we wish we would have spent more time, a minimum of a half day. There's a picnic ground there is a campground there, and also there was a store, an interpretive center. There was places to stop, again, none of which we did, but you could really spend much more time. I wouldn't make it a swoop in and out. Take a lot of pictures. There was only one grassy spot in the whole bunch, and one spot that we saw some trees that gave it some green. The rest just has an ambiance of its own that you just really have to see to believe. And prairie dogs galore, way more than we experienced in the southern part of Custer State Park. The prairie dogs were absolutely everywhere. Just a few tips here. Be sure to buy a lot of postcards when you travel. I have never been a postcard fan. We had to purchase some to send back home again. We brought all the addresses with and the stamps and such so that we could just get them all written out. And we were so busy because we didn't pack enough time into the trip, so we didn't even send our postcards until we got home. But the postcards are beautiful. They're taken by professionals. Many are taken from airplanes, high up, angles that you couldn't possibly get at with your vehicle and such, even if you're hiking. So really do stock up on the postcards. This was a new experience for me with postcards, and I am now totally sold. Also, pick up a souvenir at every place you go. I got many, we all got many. I got a little Badlands keychain at Wall Drug, and that was a place that we stopped as well. We actually stopped on the way to the Badlands, to Black Hills. Wall Drug is very famous. It's a darling main street. And speaking of main streets, I forgot to mention that when we went to Mount Rushmore, we did go down into Keystone, which is where Mount Rushmore is. Darling town, just adorable, very, very Western looking. They have a lot of very unique shops and restaurants. You can see Mount Rushmore from there, and they keep the lights on Mount Rushmore. We did go to the lighting ceremony, so during the ceremony, they do turn the lights on the faces, which was why we particularly chose to go at night, and they keep those lights on until 11 o'clock. So Keystone is a real nice pit stop when you are in Mount Rushmore, particularly if you're seeing, or when you're in Rapid City, particularly if you are seeing Mount Rushmore. And don't forget Wall Drug. Just hat pins. They always have these little hat pins. This one's from Crazy Horse. We picked up a little marble buffalo. Buffaloes are the animal of the day out there. Everything out there is buffaloes, buffaloes, buffaloes. So we picked up a little marble one to remind us of our one of our stops. And then, or just rocks. I found this rock that I just fell in love with. So start a little treasure trove for yourself at home. You'll be surprised how much meaning it will have for you after you've been to these places. And of course, there's no greater way to educate your children than to actually take them and travel. 1880s town is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's right near the place that they filmed Dances with Wolves back whenever in the 90s, I think that was. All of the buildings, they've literally built a town from real buildings that they have moved in from all parts of South Dakota. A bank, a saloon, a hotel. I think the bank was Wells Fargo. Just everything. It's just one strip down on each things on each side, and then back up again. Very, very nicely done. During the day, they have people in costumes, actors, carriage rides with mules, and they really try to bring it alive for you. The Dances with Wolves was, as I said, filmed there. They purchased many of the props, so they created a museum of props from the movie. And the one thing that I thought was most fascinating was that in that movie, which I actually haven't even seen yet, I know it was very well received when it was currently running. But Kevin Costner, the star of that movie, wanted to really make this a big production and very real. So they brought in 3,000 buffalo from a buffalo farm. And it took 16 days to shoot that. They had to be very careful, make sure everybody was safe, the buffalo were safe. It was quite spectacular to me how big. Everything for us on this trip was big. Crazy Horse, Mount Rushmore, the 3,000 buffaloes in Dances with Wolves, things I didn't know about. It was just bigger than life, this trip. It was a wonderful experience. And as I said, people come from all over the world just to go here, and then they go home. You know, this is really more of a special spot than we realized until we got there. There's also, back to 1880s town, there's also a big full train, and it's got a dining cart in it, and we missed that, a dining car. We missed that, but would have loved to have had lunch in there. Chamberlain, South Dakota is kind of in the middle of the state, and that's a nice place to stop for a halfway point. Very nice. It's world-class walleye fishing. Great. It runs right along the river. We stayed at the Oasis campground, which the people were wonderful, and it was fine enough. We were just in there late, left early. It was no big deal, but it was our least favorite, as Freeway 90 ran right along one side, and then the big highway in the town came past the other side. But they had a darling strip mall that was really cute. I mean, even a rather elegant and fashionable clothing store was in that strip mall, besides the bank and the shopping, groceries and such. So it's a nice place to visit, but we were in and out of there very quickly.